Book 17. Telemachus reunites with his mother. Odysseus and Eumaeus head to town. Odysseus insulted by Melanthius. His dog Argos recognizes him. Antinous insults and strikes him with a stool. Penelope summons Odysseus. When rosy-fingered Dawn, child of morning, appeared, Telemachus laced on his sandals and grabbed a sturdy spear that fit perfectly in his hand. He was ready to go to the city. He told the swineherd,
"Old friend, I must go to town now and show myself to my mother. She won't stop grieving until she sees me. As for this unfortunate stranger, please take him to town and let him beg there from anyone who will give him a piece of bread and something to drink. I have enough worries of my own and can't take on others' burdens. If he gets angry about this, so be it, but I prefer to speak my mind honestly."
Then Odysseus said,
"Sir, I don't want to stay here. A beggar always fares better in town than in the countryside, because anyone who wishes can offer something. I'm too old to stay here, always at a master's beck and call. So, please do as this young man just said and take me to town as soon as I've warmed myself by the fire and the day gets a little warmer. My clothes are terribly thin, and on this frosty morning, I might freeze to death, especially since you say the city is quite a distance away."
With thoughts of revenge against the suitors brewing in his mind, Telemachus strode across the yards. When he reached home, he leaned his spear against a pillar in the cloister, crossed the stone floor of the cloister, and went inside. Nurse Eurycleia spotted him first, long before anyone else. She was placing wool fleeces on the seats, and she burst out crying as she ran to him. All the other maids also rushed over, covering his head and shoulders with kisses. Penelope emerged from her room, looking as beautiful as the goddess Artemis or Aphrodite, and wept as she threw her arms around her son. She kissed his forehead and his beautiful eyes, saying fondly,
"Light of my eyes, you've come home again. I was so sure I'd never see you anymore. To think you left for Pylos without a word, without my permission. Come, tell me everything you saw."
"Don't scold me, mother, or vex me.
Telemachus replied,
Considering the narrow escape I've had. Instead, wash your face, change your dress, and go upstairs with your maids. Promise to offer rich hecatombs to all the gods if Zeus grants us revenge on the suitors. I must go to the assembly place now to fetch the stranger who came back with me from Pylos. I sent him ahead with my crew and asked Piraeus to take him home and look after him until I could come for him myself."
She heeded her son's words, washed her face, changed her dress, and vowed to offer rich hecatombs to all the gods if they would grant her revenge on the suitors. Telemachus went through and out of the cloisters, spear in hand. He wasn't alone, for his 2 swift dogs went with him. Athena gave him such divine grace that everyone marveled at him as he passed. The suitors gathered around him with sweet words on their lips, but malice in their hearts. However, Telemachus avoided them and went to sit with Mentor, Antiphus, and Halitherses, old friends of his father's house. They asked him to tell them everything that had happened. Then Piraeus arrived with Theoclymenus, whom he had escorted through the town to the assembly place. Telemachus immediately joined them. Piraeus was the first to speak.
"Telemachus,"
He said,
"I wish you would send some of your maids to my house to collect the gifts King Menelaus gave you."
Piraeus.
Telemachus replied,
We don't know what the future holds. If the suitors kill me in my own house and divide my property, I'd much rather you have those gifts than for any of them to get their hands on them. But if I succeed in killing them, I'd be very grateful if you'd kindly bring my gifts to me."
With these words, he took Theoclymenus to his own house. When they got there, they laid their cloaks on the benches and seats, then went to the baths to wash themselves. After the maids had washed and anointed them, giving them fresh cloaks and tunics, they took their seats at the table. A maidservant then brought water in a beautiful golden pitcher and poured it into a silver basin for them to wash their hands. She drew a clean table beside them. A senior servant brought bread and served them many delicious dishes from the house. Opposite them sat Penelope, reclining on a couch by a cloister pillar, spinning thread. They began to eat the delicious food before them, and as soon as they had eaten and drunk their fill, Penelope spoke.
Telemachus, I'm going upstairs to lie on my sorrowful bed. Not a day has passed since Odysseus left for Troy with the sons of Atreus that I haven't soaked that bed with my tears. But before the suitors return, you still haven't clearly told me if you heard anything about your father's return.
Her son replied.
Then I will tell you the truth. We went to Pylos and met Nestor. He took me to his house and treated me as hospitably as if I were his own son returning after a long absence. His sons did the same. But Nestor said he hadn't heard a single word from anyone about Odysseus, whether he was alive or dead. So, he sent me with a chariot and horses to Menelaus. There I saw Helen, for whose sake so many, both Argives and Trojans, were destined by the gods to suffer. Menelaus asked me what had brought me to Lacedaemon, and I told him the whole truth. Then he said, So, these cowards dare to claim a brave man's bed? It's like a doe leaving her newborn fawns in a lion's den, then going off to feed in the forest. When the lion returns to his lair, he'll quickly make short work of both of them. Odysseus will do the same to these suitors. By Father Zeus, Athena, and Apollo, I swear, if Odysseus is still the man he was when he wrestled Philomelides in Lesbos, throwing him so hard that all the Greeks cheered him, if he is still such a man and were to come near these suitors, they'll meet a swift end and a miserable wedding. As for your question, however, I will not prevaricate or deceive you. I will tell you everything the old man of the sea told me in full. He said he saw Odysseus on an island, grieving bitterly in the house of the nymph Calypso, who was holding him captive. Odysseus couldn't return home because he had no ship or sailors to take him across the sea. This is what Menelaus told me, and when I had heard his story, I came away. The gods then sent a fair wind, and I soon returned home safely.
Telemachus's words deeply moved Penelope. Then Theoclymenus spoke to her.
Madam, wife of Odysseus, Telemachus doesn't fully understand these things. Listen to me, for I can divine them surely and will hide nothing from you. May Zeus, King of Heaven, and the sacred rites of hospitality in Odysseus's house, which I now enter, be my witnesses. Odysseus himself is in Ithaca at this very moment. He is either traveling through the country or staying in one place, investigating all these wicked deeds and preparing a day of reckoning for the suitors. I saw an omen when I was on the ship which meant this, and I told Telemachus about it. I pray it is so.
Penelope replied.
If your words prove true, you will receive such generous gifts and favor from me that everyone who sees you will congratulate you.
Thus they conversed. Meanwhile, the suitors were still behaving with their usual arrogance, throwing discus or aiming spears at a target on the leveled ground in front of the house. But when it was time for dinner, and flocks of sheep and goats, with their shepherds, came into the town from the surrounding countryside, as usual, Medon, their favorite servant who waited on them at table, spoke.
All right, young masters, you've had enough sport. Come inside so we can prepare dinner. After all, dinner is best at dinner time.
They stopped their games as he told them, and came inside the house. Inside, they laid their cloaks on the benches and seats, then sacrificed some fat, well-grown sheep, goats, pigs, and a heifer. Thus they prepared their meal. Meanwhile, Odysseus and the swineherd were getting ready to leave for town.
Stranger,
the swineherd said,
I suppose you still want to go to town today, just as my master instructed. Personally, I would have liked you to stay here as a farmhand, but I must obey my master, or he'll scold me later, and a master's scolding is a serious matter. So, let's be off. It's already broad daylight, and it will be night again soon, and then you'll find it colder.
I understand completely.
Odysseus replied.
You don't need to say anything more. Let's go. But if you have a staff already cut, could you give me one to walk with? You mentioned the road is quite rough, didn't you?
As he spoke, Odysseus threw his shabby, tattered wallet over his shoulders. Eumaeus handed him a staff that suited him. The two then started, leaving the farm in the care of the remaining dogs and herdsmen. The swineherd led the way, and his master followed, leaning on his staff, looking like a poor, old tramp in ragged clothes. When they had gotten over the rough, steep ground and were nearing the city, they reached the fountain where the citizens drew their water. This fountain had been built by Ithacus, Nereidus, and Polyctor. Water-loving poplar trees were planted in a circle around it, and clear, cold water flowed down from a high rock. Above the fountain was an altar to the nymphs, where all travelers used to offer sacrifices. It was there that Melanthius, son of Dolius, caught up with them. He was driving down some of the best goats from his flock for the suitors' dinner, and 2 other herdsmen were with him. As soon as Melanthius saw Eumaeus and Odysseus, he unleashed a torrent of outrageous and vulgar insults, which greatly angered Odysseus.
"There you two go."
Melanthius sneered.
"Look how the gods bring such perfect matches together. Tell me, master swineherd, where are you dragging this pathetic creature? Anyone would be disgusted to see a wretch like him at the dinner table. This fellow has never achieved anything worthwhile in his life. He just wanders around, rubbing against every doorpost, begging for worthless scraps instead of noble things like a real man. If you gave him to me, I could make him clean out the goat pens or bring food to the young goats. He could even fatten himself up on whey. But he's useless. He refuses to do any honest work, only begging for food all over town to fill his endless stomach. So I promise you this, if he dares to step foot in Odysseus's house, he'll get his head cracked open by flying stools and be thrown out."
As Melanthius passed, he maliciously kicked Odysseus in the hip, but Odysseus stood firm, not moving an inch from the path. For a moment, he considered rushing at Melanthius, killing him with his staff, or throwing him to the ground and smashing his brains out. However, he decided to hold back and control himself. Just then, Eumaeus, the swineherd, glared at Melanthius and scolded him. He raised his hands to the sky and prayed.
"Fountain nymphs,
Eumaeus cried,
daughters of Zeus, if Odysseus ever burned thigh bones wrapped in fat from lambs or young goats for you, please grant my prayer. Send him home. When he returns, he'll quickly put an end to the arrogant threats of men like you, who go around insulting people. You're always gaddying about town while your own flocks are ruined by your terrible shepherding."
Melanthius, the goatherd, shot back.
"You foul-mouthed dog. What nonsense are you spouting? One day, I'll put you on a ship and sell you to a foreign land, then pocket the money you bring in. Oh, how I wish I were as certain that Apollo would strike Telemachus dead today, or that the suitors would kill him, as I am that Odysseus will never, ever come home."
With that, Melanthius left them behind and hurried on. He soon reached his master's house. Inside, he took a seat among the suitors, across from Eurymachus, who favored him more than anyone else. Servants brought him a piece of meat, and the head maid placed bread before him. A short while later, Odysseus and Eumaeus, the swineherd, arrived at the house and stood by the entrance. Music drifted out from inside. Phemius had just begun to sing for the suitors. Odysseus took Eumaeus' hand and spoke.
"Eumaeus,"
Odysseus said,
"this house of mine is truly magnificent. You'd be hard-pressed to find another like it, no matter how far you traveled. Buildings stretch out one after another, and the outer courtyard is surrounded by a strong, battlement wall. The double doors are skillfully crafted, making it a tough place to conquer by force. I can tell there's a big feast happening inside, too. I smell roasted meat, and I hear music, which the gods themselves allow to accompany such celebrations."
Eumaeus replied,
"You've seen it perfectly, as you always do. But now, let's figure out the best plan. Will you go inside first and join the suitors, leaving me here? Or should I go in first while you wait here? Don't wait too long, though. Someone might spot you loitering outside and throw something at you. Please, think carefully about this."
Odysseus answered,
"Understood. I'll keep that in mind. You go in first. I'll stay right here. I'm quite used to being hit and having things thrown at me. I've been battered so much in war and at sea that I'm hardened to it. This little bit of trouble will pass like all the others, but I can't hide the gnawing hunger in my belly. That's an enemy that causes great suffering for everyone. It's why ships are built to sail the seas and why people wage war against other nations.
As they spoke, a dog that had been sleeping raised his head and pricked up his ears. This was Argos. Odysseus had raised him before leaving for Troy, but he'd never truly gotten to use him. In the old days, young men would take Argos hunting for wild goats, deer, or rabbits. But now, with his master gone, Argos lay neglected on piles of mule and cow dung in front of the stable doors, waiting for the men to haul it away for fertilizer. He was covered in fleas. The moment he saw Odysseus standing there, Argos's ears drooped and his tail wagged. Yet, he couldn't get close to his master. Odysseus saw the dog across the yard and quickly wiped a tear from his eye before Eumaeus could notice. Then he spoke.
Eumaeus,
Odysseus said,
that dog over there on the dung heap is a truly magnificent hound. His build is splendid. Is he as good as he looks? Or is he just one of those dogs kept for show, begging for scraps around the table?
Eumaeus answered.
This hound belonged to a master who died in a far-off land. If he were still the dog he was when Odysseus left for Troy, he'd quickly show you his greatness. No wild beast in the forest could escape him once he was on its trail. But now, he's fallen on hard times. His master is dead and gone, and the women don't care for him. Servants never do their work properly when their master's watchful eye isn't over them, for Zeus takes away half a man's spirit when he makes him a slave.
After speaking, Eumaeus went inside the courtyard building where the suitors were gathered. But Argos, having finally recognized his master, took his last breath and died. Telemachus spotted Eumaeus long before anyone else did and gestured for him to come and sit beside him. Eumaeus looked around and saw a chair near where the carver was serving portions to the suitors. He picked it up, carried it to Telemachus's table, and sat down across from him. A servant then brought him his share of food and some bread from the basket. Immediately afterward, Odysseus entered. He looked like a poor, miserable old beggar, leaning on his staff and dressed in rags. He sat on the ashwood threshold, just inside the doors connecting the outer and inner courtyards, leaning against a cypress wood post that a carpenter had skillfully planed and fitted perfectly. Telemachus took a whole loaf of bread from the basket and as much meat as he could hold in both hands. He told Eumaeus,
Take this to the stranger. Tell him to go around to the suitors and beg from them, for a beggar should never be ashamed.
Eumaeus approached Odysseus and said,
Stranger, Telemachus sends you this. He also says you should go around to the suitors and beg from them, for beggars must not be ashamed.
Odysseus replied,
May Zeus grant Telemachus every happiness and fulfill the desires of his heart.
Odysseus took what Telemachus had sent him with both hands and placed it on the old, dirty bag at his feet. He ate while the bard sang, finishing his meal just as the singer concluded. The suitors applauded the bard. Then, Athena approached Odysseus and urged him to beg for bread from each suitor. She wanted him to see what kind of men they were, to tell the good from the bad. But no matter what, she had no intention of sparing a single one of them. So, Odysseus began his rounds, moving from left to right, holding out his hands to beg as if he were a true pauper. Some felt pity for him and were curious, asking each other who he was and where he came from. That's when Melanthius, the goatherd, spoke up.
Noble suitors of our esteemed mistress,
He said,
I can tell you a little about this fellow. I've seen him before. The swineherd brought him here, but I know nothing about the man himself or where he comes from.
Hearing this, Antinous began to yell at the swineherd.
You precious fool!
He shouted,
Why did you bring this man to town? Don't we already have enough tramps and beggars to bother us while we eat? Do you think it's a small matter that such people gather here to waste your master's property? And now you had to bring this one too?
Eumaeus replied,
Antinous, you may be well-born, but your words are wicked. It wasn't my doing that he came here. Who would invite a stranger from a foreign land, unless they were someone useful to the community? Like a prophet, a healer, a carpenter, or a bard who can charm us with their songs. Such people are welcomed everywhere, but no one would invite a beggar who only causes trouble. You are always harsher on Odysseus's servants than any of the other suitors, especially me. But I don't care, as long as Telemachus and Penelope are alive and here."
Telemachus said,
"Hush, don't answer him. Antinous has the bitterest tongue of all the suitors, and he only makes the others worse."
Then Telemachus spoke to Antinous.
"Antinous, you act as if you care for me like a son. So why do you want to kick this stranger out of the house? That's absolutely not happening. Go on, give him some food yourself. Don't be stingy, just give it. Don't worry about my mother or any of the servants. But I know you won't listen to me. You'd rather eat everything yourself than share with others."
"What do you mean by that arrogant talk, Telemachus?"
Antinous shot back.
"If all the suitors gave him as much as I would, he wouldn't show his face around here for another 3 months.
As he spoke, Antinous pulled the footstool, where he'd been resting his feet, from under the table. He made a show of throwing it at Odysseus. But all the other suitors gave Odysseus food, filling his bag with bread and meat. Odysseus was about to go back to the doorway to eat what they'd given him. But first, he approached Antinous and spoke.
"Sir, please give me something. You're certainly not the poorest man here. In fact, you look like a leader among them all, so you should be more generous. Then I'll spread the word far and wide about your kindness. I was once a rich man myself with a fine house. In those days, I gave freely to many wanderers, just like I am now, no matter who they were or what they needed. I had countless servants and everything else wealthy people enjoy. But then Zeus decided to take it all away from me. He sent me to Egypt with a band of roving raiders, and that long journey ruined me. I moored my ships in the Egyptus River and ordered my men to stay and guard them. Meanwhile, I sent out scouts to survey the area from every vantage point. But my men ignored my orders and did as they pleased. They plundered the Egyptian lands, killed the men, and took women and children captive. Soon the alarm reached the city. Hearing the war cry, people poured out at daybreak, filling the plain with cavalry, infantry, and gleaming armor. Then Zeus spread panic among my men. Surrounded on all sides, they couldn't face the enemy any longer. The Egyptians killed many of us and captured the rest alive, forcing them into labor. As for me, they handed me over to a friend they met who took me to Cyprus. His name was Demeter, son of Isis, a very influential man in Cyprus. From there, I ended up in this miserable state and eventually came here."
Antinous then spoke.
"What god sent this plague to ruin our dinner? Get out into the courtyard right now. Otherwise, your insolence and persistence will earn you another trip to Egypt and Cyprus. You've begged from everyone else and they've given you plenty. It's easy for them to be generous with other people's property when they have so much of it around."
Odysseus turned and stepped back, saying,
"Your looks are impressive, my fine sir, but your character doesn't match. If you were in your own home, you wouldn't even spare a pinch of salt for a poor man. You're living in someone else's house, surrounded by plenty, yet you can't bring yourself to give even a piece of bread."
Antinous grew furious at this. He glared at Odysseus and declared,
"You'll pay for that before you leave this courtyard."
With those words, he hurled the footstool, striking Odysseus on his upper back, near his right shoulder blade. Odysseus stood firm as a rock, not even flinching from the impact. He simply shook his head in silence, vowing revenge. Then he returned to the doorway, sat down, and placed his full bag at his feet. Odysseus cried out,
"Listen to me, you suitors of Queen Penelope. I'll speak my mind. When a man is hit fighting for his money, or his sheep or his cattle, he barely feels the ache or pain. But Antinous struck me while I was simply trying to fill this miserable belly of mine, which always seems to get people into trouble. Still, if the poor have gods and avenging spirits looking out for them, then I pray Antinous meets a terrible end before he ever gets married."
"Sit there and eat your food in silence, or get out."
Antinous roared.
"Say one more word, and I'll have you dragged hand and foot through the courtyard, and my servants will flay you alive."
The other suitors were deeply displeased by this scene. One of the younger suitors spoke up.
Antinous, you were wrong to strike that poor wanderer. It will be much worse for you if he turns out to be a god. We all know the gods often travel the world disguised as foreigners, checking to see who acts wrongly and who acts righteously.
The suitors spoke, but Antinous paid them no attention. Meanwhile, Telemachus seethed with rage over the blow his father had received. Not a single tear fell from him, but he silently shook his head, plotting his revenge. When Penelope heard that the beggar, Odysseus in disguise, had been struck in the feasting hall, she spoke to her maids.
Antinous, I wish Apollo would strike you down just as you struck him.
Her maid, Eurynomé, replied.
If our prayers were answered, not a single suitor would ever see the sun rise again.
Penelope continued.
Nurse, I despise every single one of them, for they bring nothing but trouble. But I hate Antinous like the darkness of death itself. A poor, unfortunate wanderer came begging at our house out of sheer need. Everyone else put something in his bag, but Antinous hit him on the right shoulder blade with a footstool.
Penelope talked with her maids in her room. Meanwhile, Odysseus was eating his dinner. Then she called for the swineherd and said,
Eumaeus, go tell that stranger to come here. I want to see him and ask him some questions. He seems to have traveled a lot, so he might have seen or heard something about my unhappy husband.
Eumaeus, the swineherd, replied.
Madam, if these Achaeans would just keep quiet, you would surely be captivated by the stranger's tales of adventure. My hut was the first place he reached after escaping his ship, and I spent 3 days and nights with him. Even then, he hadn't finished telling the story of his misfortunes. Even the most divinely inspired bard in the world, whose songs enchant all who listen, couldn't have charmed me more than he did as I sat in my hut and listened. He claims there's an old friendship between his family and Odysseus's. He says he's from the island of Crete, where the descendants of King Minos live, after being tossed about by every kind of misfortune. He also heard that Odysseus is alive and well among the Thesprotians, and that he's on his way home, bringing great wealth with him. Then call him here.
Penelope said.
I want to hear his story too. As for the suitors, let them enjoy themselves indoors or out, as they please. They have nothing to worry about. Their own grain and wine sit untouched in their homes, consumed only by their servants. Yet, day after day, they linger around our house, sacrificing our oxen, sheep, and fat goats for their feasts, never giving a thought to how much wine they drink. No estate can withstand such recklessness, especially since we have no Odysseus to protect us. If he were to return, he and his son would swiftly take their revenge.
No sooner had Penelope finished speaking than Telemachus sneezed so loudly that the entire house echoed with it. Penelope heard this, laughed, and told Eumaeus.
Go and call the stranger. Didn't you hear my son sneeze just as I was speaking? This can only mean that all the suitors will be killed, and not a single one will escape. And mark my words, if I'm convinced the stranger is telling the truth, I'll give him a fine shirt and cloak.
Eumaeus heard this and went straight to Odysseus, saying,
Sir, my mistress Penelope, Telemachus's mother, has sent for you. She's in great sorrow, but she wants to hear anything you can tell her about her husband. If she's convinced you're speaking the truth, she'll give you a shirt and cloak, which you desperately need. As for bread, you can get enough to fill your belly by begging around town. People who want to give will give.
I will tell Queen Penelope nothing but the absolute truth.
Odysseus replied.
I know everything about her husband, and I've been a companion to him in his suffering. But I'm afraid to pass through this crowd of cruel suitors. Their arrogance and disrespect are sky-high. Just now, I was walking through the house, minding my own business, when one of them struck me hard. Neither Telemachus nor anyone else defended me. So, please tell Queen Penelope to be patient and wait until sundown, and ask her to give me a seat close to the fire. My clothes are worn very thin. You know they are, since you've seen them ever since I first asked for your help. Then she can ask me about her husband's return.
Eumaeus left after hearing this. As Penelope saw him cross the threshold, she asked,
Eumaeus, why aren't you bringing him here? Is he afraid someone will mistreat him, or is he simply too shy to come inside the house at all? Beggars shouldn't be ashamed.
The swineherd Eumaeus answered,
The stranger is a very sensible man. It's only natural he'd want to avoid the suitors. He asked you to wait until sundown. Madam, it will be much better for you to speak with him alone then, when you can talk freely.
Penelope replied,
The man is no fool. He's probably right. There are no people in the whole world as awful and disgusting as these suitors.
After Penelope finished speaking, Eumaeus returned to the suitors, having explained everything. Then he approached Telemachus and whispered so no one else could hear.
My dear young master, I must now return to the pigs to look after your property and my own duties. Keep a close eye on what happens here. But above all, be careful to stay out of danger. Many here wish you harm. May Zeus bring them to a terrible end before they can hurt us.
Telemachus replied,
Very well. Go home once you've finished your dinner. Then, in the morning, bring the animals we'll sacrifice today. Leave the rest to the heavens and me.
Eumaeus sat down again and finished his dinner. He then left the courtyards and cloister with the other men at the table and returned to his pigs. As evening deepened, the suitors began to entertain themselves with singing and dancing. Book 18. The Fight with Iris. Odysseus warns Amphinomus. Penelope gets presents from the suitors. The brazier. Odysseus rebukes Eurymachus. There was a common beggar who wandered all over the city of Ithaca. He was infamous as an unstoppable glutton and drunkard. This man had no real strength or endurance, but he looked like a big, hulking fellow. His mother had named him Arneas, but the young men of the town called him Iris because he would run errands for anyone who asked. As soon as Iris saw Odysseus, he started insulting him and tried to drive him out of his own house. Iris shouted,
Hey, old man, get out of the doorway right now. Or I'll grab you by the neck and drag you out. Can't you see everyone winking at me, urging me to kick you out by force? I'm holding back because I don't want to. So get up and leave on your own, or we'll come to blows.
Odysseus glared at him and said,
My friend, I haven't done you any harm. People give you a lot, but I'm not envious. There's enough room in this doorway for both of us. You don't need to be stingy with things that aren't yours to give. You seem to be just another wanderer like me. Perhaps the gods will bring us better luck someday. But don't talk too much about fighting. If you make me angry, old as I am, I'll stain your mouth and chest with blood. Tomorrow will be more peaceful if I do, because you won't bother Odysseus's house again.
Iris, furious, shot back.
You filthy glutton. You babble like an old fishwife. I have a good mind to grab you with both hands and knock out all your teeth like boar's tusks. So get ready. Let everyone here watch. You'll never be able to fight someone much younger than you.
They hurled insults at each other on the smooth floor in front of the doorway. Antinous saw this and burst out laughing. He turned to the other suitors.
This is the best show we've ever seen. The gods have never sent such entertainment to this house. That stranger and Iris have quarreled and are going to fight. Let's make them fight right now.
The suitors all came up laughing and gathered around the two ragged beggars. Antinous said,
Listen up. By the fire, we have some goat stomachs, stuffed with blood and fat, set aside for supper. The winner, the one who proves himself the better man, can choose one. He'll be welcome at our table, and we won't let any other beggar near this house.
The others all agreed. But Odysseus, to avoid suspicion, said,
Gentlemen, an old man like me, worn out by hardship, cannot stand against a young man, but my unstoppable hunger drives me, even though I know I'll probably get beaten. You must swear, however, that none of you will give me a cowardly blow to help Iris win, or assist him in any way.
They swore as Odysseus asked. When they had completed their oath, Telemachus spoke up.
Honored stranger, if you want to fight this man, you don't need to fear anyone here. Anyone who strikes you will have to fight more than just you. I am the master of this house, and the wise lords Antinous and Eurymachus agree with me.
Everyone agreed. Odysseus tied his old rags tightly around his waist, revealing his strong thighs, broad chest and shoulders, and powerful arms. Just then, Athena came and made his body even more solid. The suitors were completely astonished. They turned to each other and whispered,
That stranger just showed off thighs like that from under his rags. Iris is finished.
Iris grew nervous when he heard them, but the servants dragged him by force to the center of the courtyard. He was so terrified his limbs shook. Antinous yelled at him.
You boastful thug, you shouldn't have been born if you're scared of an old, worn-out beggar like him. So listen up, if he beats you and proves he's the better man, I'll put you on a ship to the mainland and send you to King Echetus. He kills everyone who comes near him. He'll cut off your nose and ears, rip out your guts, and feed them to the dogs.
This frightened Iris even more. But they brought him into the middle of the courtyard, and the two men prepared to fight. Odysseus wondered, should he hit Iris hard enough to kill him on the spot, or just lightly enough to knock him down? He decided a lighter blow was better, so the Achaeans wouldn't suspect his true identity. Then they began to fight. Iris struck Odysseus's right shoulder, but Odysseus landed a powerful blow on Iris's neck, just below the ear. The bones of his skull shattered, and blood gushed from his mouth. He fell to the dusty ground, groaning, gnashing his teeth, and kicking. The suitors clapped and roared with laughter. Odysseus grabbed Iris by the foot and dragged him to the gatehouse in the outer courtyard. He propped Iris against the wall and put a staff in his hand. Odysseus said,
Sit here and keep the dogs and pigs away. You're a pathetic wretch. Don't ever try to be the king of beggars again, or you'll face something much worse.
Then he threw his dirty, tattered old bag over his shoulder and went back to sit on the threshold. The suitors went back inside the hall, laughing and greeting him. They said,
May Zeus and all the other gods grant you everything you wish, for getting rid of that annoying, greedy beggar. We'll soon take him to the mainland, to King Echetus, who kills everyone who comes near him.
Odysseus considered this a good sign. Antinous placed a large goat's stomach, filled with blood and fat, in front of him. Amphinomus took 2 loaves of bread from the basket and brought them to Odysseus. He poured wine into a golden cup and offered it, raising a toast. Amphinomus said,
Good luck to you, honored stranger. Your situation is difficult now, but I hope better days are coming soon.
Odysseus replied,
Amphinomus, you seem like a wise man, and it's no surprise, given who your father is. I've heard good things about your father. He is Nisus of Dulichium, a brave and wealthy man. They tell me you are his son, and you appear to be an important person. Listen carefully to my words and remember them. Of all living things on earth, humans are the most arrogant. As long as the gods grant him health and strength, a person believes no harm will ever come to him. Even when the blessed gods send sorrow, he endures it as he must, and makes the best of it, because the Almighty God gives humans their daily thoughts, day by day. I know all about it, for I was a rich man once, and made many mistakes due to my stubborn pride and my confidence that my father and brothers would support me. Therefore, a person should always revere the gods in all things, and accept the good things heaven sends without arrogance. Look at the shameful acts these suitors are committing. They are wasting the wealth and dishonoring the wife of a man who is sure to return someday, and soon. Indeed, he will be here soon. May the gods send you home safely before that day, so you don't meet him when he returns. Because once he is here, he and the suitors will not part without bloodshed.
With these words, he poured a libation. After drinking, he placed the golden cup back in Amphinomus' hand. Amphinomus walked away, head bowed and looking serious, for he felt a sense of dread. But he couldn't escape his doom, for Athena had fated him to die by Telemachus' hand. So he returned to his seat. Then Athena inspired Penelope to show herself to the suitors. This was to make the suitors even more captivated by her, and to earn greater respect from her son and husband. Penelope gave a wry smile and said,
Eurynomé, I've changed my mind. I want to show myself to the suitors, even though I despise them. I also want to hint to my son that he should avoid them. They speak sweetly, but their intentions are wicked. My dear lady,
answered Eurynomé,
everything you've said is true. Go tell your son. But first, wash yourself and anoint your face with oil. Don't go around with tear-stained cheeks. It's not right to grieve so constantly. After all, Telemachus, whom you always prayed to see with a beard, is now a grown man.
Penelope replied,
I know you mean well, Eurynomé, but don't try to persuade me to wash and anoint myself. The gods took away all my beauty the day my husband left. Still, tell Autono and Hippodamia that I need them. They must be with me when I'm in the hall. I can't go among the men alone, it wouldn't be proper.
The old woman left the room to tell the maids to go to Queen Penelope. Meanwhile, the goddess Athena had another idea. She cast a sweet sleep over Penelope. Penelope lay on her couch, her body heavy with deep slumber. Then, Athena filled her with such grace and beauty that all the Achaeans would be amazed. She washed Penelope's face with a mysterious, radiant beauty, like Aphrodite when she dances with the Graces. Athena made her taller, gave her a more regal figure, and made her skin shine whiter than polished ivory. Once Athena had finished, she departed. Soon after, the maids entered from their quarters and woke Penelope with their chattering voices. Penelope passed her hands over her face and said,
What an incredibly sweet and wonderful sleep I've had, despite all my misery. I wish the goddess Artemis would let me die so peacefully right now. I don't want to wither away in despair any longer, grieving for my dear husband. He possessed every good quality and was the most outstanding man among the Achaeans.
With these words, she came down from her upstairs room, not alone, but attended by 2 of her maidservants. When she reached the suitors, she stood by one of the pillars supporting the cloister roof, holding a veil before her face, with a respectable maidservant on either side of her. As the suitors beheld her, they were completely captivated and fell madly in love with her. Each desperately wished she would become his wife. Penelope spoke to her son, Telemachus.
Telemachus, I'm worried you're no longer as thoughtful and well-behaved as you used to be. When you were younger, you had better judgment. Now that you're grown up, though a stranger would take you for the son of a wealthy family, judging by your size and good looks, your conduct is far from what it should be. What was all that disturbance, and how could you allow a guest to be so shamefully abused? What would have happened if he had suffered serious injury while under our protection in this house? Surely, that would have brought great dishonor upon you.
Telemachus replied,
Mother, I understand your unhappiness. I understand the whole situation and know when things are wrong, which I couldn't do when I was younger. However, I can't always act perfectly. These evil men here keep driving me out of my mind, one after another, and I have no one to stand by me. Still, the fight between Iris and the stranger didn't turn out the way the suitors wanted, because the stranger won. I wish Father Zeus, Athena, and Apollo would strike down every one of these suitors, some inside the house and some outside. I wish they would all be as helpless as Iris is over there by the outer gate. Look, he keeps nodding his head like a drunk. He was beaten so badly that he can't stand on his feet or even make it back to his home, wherever that may be, for he has no strength left.
They spoke for a moment. Then Eurymachus came up and said,
Queen Penelope, daughter of Icarius, if all the Achaeans in Argos could see you at this moment, you would have even more suitors in your house by tomorrow morning. You are the most remarkable woman in the whole world, both for your personal beauty and your sharp mind.
To this, Penelope replied,
Eurymachus, the gods took away all my beauty, both of face and figure, when the Argives sailed for Troy and my dear husband went with them. If he were to return and look after my affairs, would be more respected and present a better appearance to the world. As it is, I am weighed down with worry and the sorrows the gods have piled upon me. My husband predicted all of this. When he was leaving home, he took my right wrist in his hand and said, "Wife, not all of us will return safely from Troy. The Trojans fight well with both bow and spear, and they are skilled at fighting from chariots. Nothing ends a battle faster than that. So, I don't know if the gods will send me back to you, or if I might fall there in Troy. In the meantime, you must look after things here. Take care of my father and mother as you do now, and even more so while I am gone. But when you see our son growing a beard, then marry whomever you wish, and leave this home you live in now." That's what he said, and now it's all coming true. A night will come when I shall have to yield myself to a marriage I detest, for Zeus has stolen all hope of happiness from me. This further grief, moreover, tears my heart apart. You suitors are not courting me according to our country's traditions. When men court a noble woman they believe will be a good wife, and each tries to win her for himself, they usually bring cattle and sheep to feast the lady's friends, and offer her splendid gifts. They don't just devour other people's wealth without paying for it.
Odysseus was glad when he heard her trying to get presents from the suitors, and praising them with sweet words she didn't truly mean. Then Antinous said,
"Queen Penelope, daughter of Icarius, take as many presents as you please from anyone who will give them to you. It's not right to refuse a gift. But we will not stop what we're doing or move from this spot until you have married the best man among us, whoever he may be."
The other suitors cheered at what Antinous had said, and each sent his servant to bring his present. Antinous' servant returned with a large and lovely dress, beautifully embroidered. It came with 12 solid gold brooch pins to fasten it. Eurymachus immediately brought her a stunning necklace of gold and amber beads that shimmered like sunlight. Eurydamas' 2 servants returned with earrings shaped like 3 sparkling pendants that glittered brilliantly. Meanwhile, King Pisander, son of Polyctor, offered her a necklace of the finest craftsmanship, and all the other suitors brought her beautiful gifts of some kind. Then the queen went back to her room upstairs, and her maids brought the presents after her. Meanwhile, the suitors took to singing and dancing, and stayed until evening came. They danced and sang until it grew dark. Then they brought in 3 braziers to give light, piled them high with old, dry chopped wood, and lit torches from them, which the maids took turns holding. Then Odysseus said,
"You maids of Odysseus, who has been gone so long, go inside to the queen. Sit with her and keep her company, or spin yarn or sort wool. I will hold the light for everyone here. They may stay until morning, but they won't beat me, for I can endure a lot of pain."
The maids looked at one another and laughed. Then beautiful Melantho began to mock him with scorn. She was Dolius's daughter, but Penelope had raised her, giving her toys and caring for her as a child. Yet, despite all this, she had no sympathy for her mistress's sorrow and behaved improperly with Eurymachus, her lover. Melantho said,
"You pathetic wanderer, have you lost your mind? Go and sleep in some blacksmith's shop or some public gathering place, instead of babbling here. Aren't you ashamed of speaking out in front of your betters, so many of them too? Are you drunk, or do you always talk so much? You seem to have gone crazy just because you beat that tramp Iris. Be careful that a better man than he doesn't come and club you over the head until you're bleeding and thrown out of this house."
"You hateful girl,"
Odysseus replied, glaring at her.
"I will go and tell Telemachus what you have been saying, and he will have you torn to pieces."
With these words, he terrified the maids, and they hurried away into the inner parts of the house. They trembled from head to toe, for they thought he would do as he said. But Odysseus took his stand near the burning braziers, holding up torches and looking at the people, deep in thought about the events that were sure to unfold. But Athena would not let the suitors for one moment stop their arrogance, for she wanted Odysseus to feel even greater rage toward them. She therefore prompted Eurymachus, son of Polybus, to mock Odysseus, which made the others laugh. Eurymachus said,
"Listen to me, you suitors of Queen Penelope, so I may speak my mind. It's no accident that this man has come to Odysseus's house. I believe the light isn't coming from the torches, but from his own head. He's completely bald, you see."
Then, turning to Odysseus, he said,
Stranger, will you work as a servant if I send you to the fields and pay you well? Can you build a stone fence or plant trees? I will feed you all year round and provide you with shoes and clothes. Will you go, then? Probably not. You've fallen into bad habits. You don't want to work, you'd rather wander the country begging to fill your stomach.
Eurymachus,
answered Odysseus.
what if you and I were to compete in early summer, when the days are longest? Give me a good scythe and take one yourself, and let's see which of us can last longer or mow more powerfully, from dawn until dusk, as the grass is ready for cutting. Or if you want to plow against me, let's each take a yoke of strong, well-matched tawny oxen, full of power and stamina. Turn me into a 4-acre field, and let's see whether you or I can plow a straighter furrow. If, again, war were to break out today, give me a shield, a couple of spears, and a helmet that fits snugly on my head. Then you would find me leading the charge, and you would stop mocking me about my appetite. You are arrogant and cruel. You think you're a great man, but you live in a small, miserable world. If Odysseus comes to his own again, the doors of his house are wide, but they'll feel very narrow when you try to escape through them.
Eurymachus was enraged by these words. He glared at him and shouted,
You miserable fool! I will soon make you pay for daring to say such things to me, especially in front of everyone. Are you drunk, or do you always babble like this? You seem to have lost your mind because you beat that tramp Iris.
With this, he grabbed a footstool. But Odysseus feared for his life and clung to the knees of Amphinomus of Dulichium, begging for protection. The stool struck the cupbearer's right hand, knocking him down. The man screamed as he crashed onto his back, his wine jug clattering to the floor. The suitors in the covered hall erupted in chaos. One turned to his neighbor and muttered,
I wish the stranger had gone somewhere else, curse him for all the trouble he's causing us. We can't have this kind of uproar over a beggar. If this bad advice continues, we won't enjoy our feast anymore.
Telemachus stepped forward and said,
Sirs, what in the world are you doing? Have you lost your minds? Can't you enjoy your food and wine with some decency? Has some evil spirit possessed you? I don't want to kick anyone out, but you've all had your dinner. It's time for each of you to go home and get some sleep.
The suitors bit their lips, amazed by Telemachus's bold words. But Amphinomus, son of Nisus and grandson of Oretius, spoke up.
Let's not take offense. Telemachus has a point, so there's no need to argue with him. And let's not harm the stranger or any of Odysseus's servants. Let the cupbearer pass around the wine for our offerings to the gods. Then we can all go home and rest. The stranger is Telemachus's guest, so let's leave him to Telemachus.
Everyone liked what Amphinomus said. So Mulius of Dulichium, Amphinomus' servant, mixed wine and water in a large bowl and passed it around to each man. Then they poured out offerings to the blessed gods. After making their offerings and drinking as much as they wished, they all went home.